All right, folks, I am back here on WLTH 1370 AM. I am Scott Cannon, flying solo because Reverend Delvin Campbell has left me alone again, and I'm going to get in all kinds of trouble talking about the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and all these other people. Y'all may have to pray for me after this. I think this is the second or third time in recent weeks. If I'm not here next week, y'all know what happened. That's all I'm saying. Y'all know what happened. If I'm not here next week, don't believe what you hear in the media about me. I swear I did not decide to jump into Lake Michigan after shooting myself 3 times in the face. That just didn't happen. Okay. But in more FBI news, the FBI actually conducted a series of raids on July 29th directed against the African People's Socialist Party. Did y'all hear about that? I bet more than likely you did not. Yes, they conducted raids on July 29th against the African People's Socialist Party in St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Petersburg, Florida, not too far from Mar-a-Lago, where Trump is. The raids are linked to a 25-page indictment issued against Alexander Viktorovich Ivanov, a Russian national accused of conspiracy to commit offense against the United States, a loosely defined federal crime with a penalty of up to 5 years in prison as well as heavy fines. The APSP, as well as several other unidentified political groups, all of which remain unindicted at this point, are accused of having acted as co-conspirators with Ivanov and Russian intelligence in order to undermine the authority of the United States, sow division within the broader population, and interfere in U.S. elections. All supposedly conspiratorial political activity listed in the indictment is protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution. The Constitution is still a thing, right? Well, I'm not so sure at this point. The indictment against Ivanov cites as evidence of an alleged conspiracy involving the targeted U.S.-based organization's correspondence and collaboration with the anti-globalization movement of Russia, an organization headed by Ivanov, which the FBI and the Department of Justice claim has ties to Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB. It further accuses senior members of the APSP of having known of AGMR's ties to the Russian state and alleges that the APSP and other co-conspirators willingly received money from the Russian government, a claim that the APSP has publicly denied. The APSP's only activities noted in the indictment consist of holding rallies in various American cities opposing the genocide of African people in the United States and making public statements denouncing the U.S. NATO involvement in the war in Ukraine while expressing political sympathy for Russia, i.e., that's why I played the clip at the beginning of the show of Mick Wallace, the member of European Congress, talking about the role of NATO in maintaining the perpetual state of warfare. It should be noted that the indictment was drawn up against Ivanov in the knowledge that he resides in Moscow, and any attempt to extradite him to stand trial would be almost certain to fail. It appears that the main purpose of the indictment against Ivanov is to justify the Biden administration's use of state repression against left-wing opponents within the U.S. of Washington's imperialist agenda to Russia. Yes, the indictment explicitly refers to the ongoing conflict, devoting an entire section to the subject under the heading 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. Heavily armed FBI agents raided the St. Louis home of APSP chairman Omali Yeshitela, who's 80 years old. This man is 80 years old. And his wife, Ona, in the early mornings of July 29th, FBI agents drove to their home in an armored vehicle, set off flashbang grenades throughout the neighborhood, hovered a drone at the front door of their house, and commanded through a loudspeaker that Yeshitela and Ona come out with their hands up. These are 80-year-old people. 80-year-old Americans. And this is how the FBI chose to engage them. Yeshitela stated that the drone almost struck Ona in the face as she exited their home. Agents handcuffed them, forced them to sit on the curb while investigators searched their home, seizing cell phones and computers. Wow. He noted that during the raids, agents broke windows downstairs and forced their way into the apartment next door by smashing the door in. They were making a big show in the community, he said. Neither Yeshitela nor Ona were shown a physical copy of the search warrant until well after the fact. Now, this is what brother had to say about it.
And the set the people.
I've been to Nicaragua. I've been to various other places in Africa. I've been to Nicaragua. I've been all kinds of places where oppressed people are organizing because black people need not to be isolated. And that's what this government would do. They would have us isolated, assuming that there is nothing that we can turn to except Joe Biden, who turned loose 100,000 policemen in the street with his omnibus crime bill that's probably killed Mike Brown. And the Russians didn't kill Mike Brown, by the way. Nobody said a Russian did that. That was an American domestic soldier that they called the police that killed Mike Brown. So you want me to hate Russians? And no, I don't hate Russians, but I hate those people who killed Mike Brown, and I hate the institutions that's responsible for that. So I wanted to say that. And to be clear about that, I'm not unabashedly I'm an unabashedly black man in Africa that's committed to the liberation of black people, the African and all the other oppressed peoples on the planet Earth. And the United States has always historically been opposed to the liberation of oppressed people, opposed to freedom in Nicaragua, opposed to freedom in Afghanistan, opposed to freedom in South Africa. Mandela, from your perspective, at one time was a terrorist. Fidel Castro, how many times has the U.S. government tried to murder Fidel Castro? This is the reality that we're talking about, and so we are unabashedly on our own side. So I just want to say that in terms of what happened. Let me just say, they actually sent a drone into this house. They said we were not charged with anything. That's what they said. They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do. Only thing we do is fight for black people, black power. All you got to do is walk through North St. Louis, and you can see the changes that we brought here as a party for black people. And the government is opposed to that, and that's why we are under attack, and also because they see us as pawns that they can use in this propaganda war against Russia. That's why black people who make this mistake of assuming that what's happening in Afghanistan or what's happening in Russia and Ukraine have nothing to do with us, clearly it does have something to do with us. The United States government clearly says it has something to do with us. And what they have done also is try to create a situation where there is the appearance that anybody, black people who oppose, who criticize what the United States government is doing to us must be the employ of Russia. Like somehow Russia killed Mike Brown. That somehow we needed the Russians to tell us that we were oppressed. That's a hell of a statement. It's a disgusting, slanderous statement that black people don't have enough sense to know who it is that's killing us, murdering us, and keeping us living in these conditions. And I've been to Russia, and I didn't see Russians living like black people live right here in North St. Louis. That's the reality.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Hello, caller.
Okay, good evening, good man.
What's up?
Okay. Just before that young man made the speech you just put on,
Yes, yes.
when the phone rang, But basically, he said what I was going to say. All I was going to tell you was that invasion in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
All I was going to say was that was a diversion. But the young man I read on told you what's going on. What I'm saying about it was a diversion. Uncle Sam, the government is getting ready to do something else. So what they'll do, they'll start some mess over here. So it'll get your mind off of what they actually get ready to do. Do you understand what
I understand. I'm with you 100%, brother.
Yeah, because I said, no, this young man that's on the radio making this long speech, how the hell he knew what was going on? He spoke before I spoke. Because you touched him on free. He said, everybody know how the Uncle Sam work, man.
Yep.
Uncle Sam not going to just go and tell you, Scott, give me $1 million. Uncle Sam not going to say that. Uncle Sam going to start a lie way over there somewhere that you done did something, he can go take whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
That's all what's going on, baby. But
Yes.
that's it. Hell, Uncle Sam was doing that when America first. Look, man, Uncle Sam been doing that forever. That's all I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But you already know this, right?
Yes.
Be good man.
It's all good.
Okay, bye.
Yes. Yes, he dropped the gospel on you right there. And that goes back again to what Russiagate was about. You know, I got in a lot of trouble over the years here at WLTH with stuff I said about Russiagate. Because, again, a lot of people's hatred of Donald Trump made them lionize the FBI and the CIA and the corporate liberal media who were using Russiagate specifically for what this man was talking about. Russiagate is and always was a diversion. It's exactly so they could do exactly to the African Socialist, the African People's Socialist Party, what they're doing. It was always about that. If they were concerned with election interference, they would talk about Israel and AIPAC. AIPAC owns all of our politicians, Democrats and Republicans. They got Obama to give him $38 billion when Gary, Indiana was falling to pieces. And if the COVID virus that they probably had some hand in funding in Wuhan, thanks to the National Institute of Health, had not let COVID get loose, we probably wouldn't have the American Rescue Plan funds that we got now. But Israel would have their money. And the Saudis too. The Saudis would have their money and their weapons to perpetuate the worst genocide in modern history against the Yemeni people in Africa. Let me get this caller. Hello, caller. I don't know. It was a troll. It's a troll. That's okay. A lot of people don't like hearing the truth. But that's fine. It is what it is. And so when you end up in these situations where the U.S. government is trying to make sure that nobody comes out and is dissident or has a voice against the military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex and the corporate-industrial complex, the first thing they do is say that you align with some foreign government. This is what they did to Martin Luther King, folks. I was screaming it from the hilt here 5 or 6 years ago. They said Martin Luther King was a communist and a puppet of Russia. They said Rosa Parks was a communist and a puppet of Russia. There's a great documentary that came out some years ago called Scandalize My Name. If you get the opportunity to see it, because I've been looking for it for years. It's about how the U.S. government vilified and tormented black celebrities who were the first civil rights legends back in the 20s and 30s. Paul Robeson, how they did Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson actually ended up having to go over to Russia because this man, who was one of America's greatest athletes, and one of America's greatest singers was run out of the United States of America because he dared to fight for the civil rights of his people. And so he was run out of town. He was run out of town, basically. And others like Harry Belafonte, like Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis. I didn't know this one. The grandmother from Family Matters. I forget what her name was. I think it was Rosetta something. She was one of the people who had her career almost ruined by it. Blacklisting people who were parts of the civil rights movement, saying that they were un-American, saying that they were communist, and that they were Russian puppets. And when black people, modern black people, saw that same script being used in 2016, they let their hatred of Donald Trump allow the FBI and the CIA and the corporate liberal media and all these other people to come out here and once again start vilifying people as Russian stooges and Russian puppets. Well, let me tell you something about Russia, folks. Russia is a dying petrostate. Russia lost, I think they lost 30 million people in World War II. They have never fully recovered. Their population has never fully recovered from that. Never has. That's why they only have 100 million people. Indonesia has way more people than Russia. I think Indonesia has more than twice as many people as Russia. They're so desperate that Vladimir Putin is paying people to get married and have children. He's literally paying Russians to get married and have children because of their demographics issues. Call back, caller. I'll get you in whenever. You know, I just got to finish making my point. Russia has their demographics issues, so they have to do whatever it takes to protect themselves because they are not this sort of super powerful elite country. Like, they are depending on essentially Americans' ignorance about what Russia is and essentially equating Russia with the Soviet Union. You would be shocked by how many Americans still think Russia's a communist country. Russia ain't no communist country no more. It's a hyper-capitalist petrostate, a kleptocracy, just like the United States is. Vladimir Putin might be the richest man on earth, or he's pretty close to it. It is run by rich super capitalists just like America is. And they fooled you into thinking that Russia's a communist country that, you know, somehow influences everything that goes on in the world and brainwashes black people into believing that racism still exists. As if we can't see it ourselves, like brother Yeshatella said it right now. Hello, caller.
Excuse me. Hi, Scott. How you doing?
I'm good. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Feel like you're riding by yourself today, huh?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, but you know what? I was remembering, and you said in 1975, that year, you know, I was just 21 years old. Mm-hmm. And I remember, you know, when I was growing up, I remember President Kennedy. I really do. I remember him as a little girl. I remember when he got killed. Mm. And I remember I was like maybe third grade or something like that when he got killed in 64?
63.
63. Yeah, I was about in third grade because I would have been, about 8, 9 years old. But anyway, I remember everybody was just crying when President Kennedy got killed. But then as I grew up, and I began to do a lot of reading and things like that, and I learned a lot of things that I was really surprised about President Kennedy.
What'd you learn?
You know, how they would go into, like you said, they was talking about different countries, and how he had tried to get a lot of leaders killed. President Kennedy. I was surprised. I really was. I was really surprised. And I didn't know, and when you think about our government and how our government, I thought about how, what was that, J. Edgar Hoover, things that he did to Dr. King. But this is our government.
Yep.
Now, what do we have if we can't trust our government? It's bad.
Oh, yeah, you already know.
Yeah, when you can't really trust your government. And, you almost be afraid of the legal system. You talking about overhauling, and we often looking at the police. But I think we need to look higher than just say the police.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're just pawns, really, in the hands of people that are higher up who do control a lot of things that go on in this country.
Yep.
And a lot of things that's really not good.
Yep.
And I was thinking about also now I don't know what all kind of documents that they got from ex-President Trump, but they got to know he's been out of office, and why are they just now finding this?
Well, they think there's a mole. There's been some rumors that Melania might have turned them in.
I'm just curious. I'm just saying this. I just think they need to look higher up than that because our government is not pure.
Oh no,
it's really not pure at all.
Not at all.
Okay, then.
All right. Thank you for your call.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I absolutely agree with the caller. Well, if you look at when Mossadegh in Iran was killed, I think that was the 50s. I think that was Eisenhower. But Patrice Lumumba was killed in 61. The leader of the Congo. He was killed in 61. Who was president in 61? John F. Kennedy was president in 1961. So why do you think when Kennedy got assassinated, what did Malcolm X say? It's the chickens coming home to roost. That's what he meant. That's exactly what he meant. John F. Kennedy, he did do some good things. He had some good traits. He was the first, well, not the first, but he did continue the sort of executive branch, I don't want to say embrace of civil rights, but some advocacy for civil rights when he worked with King. Obviously, Eisenhower worked, and even Nixon. Eisenhower and Nixon worked with MLK in the 50s. The Kennedy brothers actually stole King and the civil rights movement away from the Republicans, and Richard Nixon hated black people until he died, partially because of that. But yeah, Kennedy was not a saint. That's exactly why Malcolm X said when he died, this is the chickens coming home to roost. Because he knew that Kennedy is just like I said with Trump earlier. These gangsters kill each other. Okay? And the Kennedys knew all about gangsters. What was Joseph Kennedy the father? A gangster. He was literally a gangster. During Prohibition, that's how they made their money. So, Kennedy, he made the wrong enemy and faced bit the bullet, literally. And it's important to understand that. It's important to understand that the the government will always use trickeration, as my man, I forget what my man, I forgot who said trickeration. Will always use trickeration to try to take the attention off of one thing and put it on something else. I mean, now what they love to do is put black faces on imperialism. That's what they like to do now. Back then, they would just kill Patrice Lumumba or Thomas Sankara. They would kill these sort of revolutionary figures in Africa. They would kill Martin Luther King. They'd kill Malcolm X. They would, kill as many Black Panthers as they could. Now what they do is they put black faces on the New World Order, on imperialism, like Barack Obama, like Kamala Harris. I just saw this week, the Marine Corps promoted the first black officer to 4-star general in its 246-year history. Lieutenant General Michael E. Langley has made history in becoming the first black officer in the Marine Corps' 246-year history to be promoted to the rank of 4-star general. After the Senate voted to confirm Langley's promotion last week, the 37-year Marine Corps veteran who will oversee the U.S. military forces in Africa was promoted during a ceremony Saturday in Washington. Note with that last sentence. Will oversee all U.S. military forces in Africa. We know what that means for us. When you see somebody black getting promoted, whether it's Obama, whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's now Michael E. Langley, or when George W. Bush, I think it was George W. Bush, put Kip Ward as the head of AFRICOM, the United States Africa Command, they get us to do the hatchet work now. Isn't that something? They get black people to do the hatchet job. Whew, folks. We got to stay vigilant. We got to stay on our toes. And we got to look out for ourselves and our families and the people closest to us. Got to protect their children. I talk to Rev about that all the time. I don't have no kids, but Rev does. And he always talking about, look, we might be homeschooling. You may have to homeschool your kids in order to keep them from being indoctrinated by these people. Okay? Because they are coming and they have their agenda. Okay? And you may not want anything to do with politics, but you better believe politics will have something to do with you.